two sections for the purpose of our SMS program that is happening every Saturday, which individually also I'm looking forward to, because that the amount of takeaways and learnings that we have is really amazing. It adds value to our practice and profession. So, with that very brief introduction, let us go into the section first. See, section 5 per se talks about power of officers. That is what is very, very important here, because we have to know whom we are approaching, who has the jurisdiction, who has the right, who has the power to pass a notice, who has the power to pass an order. Like how Arup sir actually said regarding supply, first we have to decide what supply is. With respect to the litigation part or presentation of notice, we have to find out whether the particular officer is the proper officer as defined under GST Act. Unless and otherwise we know if the person who is passing the notice, giving a show cause notice, or suppose he is giving passing an order, unless and otherwise we know that he is the proper officer, we may not be able to conduct our proceedings in a proper way. So that way, section 5 gives powers of officers under GST. It's a very simple section. It has got just four subsections, which I have highlighted here. An officer of central tax may exercise the powers and discharge the duties, and it goes without saying that we have a similar section with respect to all the state taxes and with respect to UT/GST Acts also. The first part is power to discharge duties, powers to exercise the powers and discharge the duties. Second one is somebody subordinating him. Third one is delegation of powers. And fourth one, an appellate authority shall not exercise the powers and discharge the duties conferred, imposed on any other officer of central tax. My understanding here, as far as the fourth point is concerned, is that the appellate authority may say that this particular order is wrong. He can dismiss the order, he can sustain the order or say anything, but he cannot discharge the duties of an assessing officer. An appellate authority decides the dispute in favor of the assessee or in favor of the department, but he cannot interfere into the duties of the assessing officer per se. So that is what is very important in as far as subsection 4 of section 5 is concerned. But as we are talking about this powers of officers under GST, maybe I would say that as a practicing chartered accountant handling litigations on GST, suppose if we receive a summon, suppose if we receive a notice, um, suppose an ASMT 10 is uploaded in the portal, or even the state, with respect to as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, we get most of the notices online, though we are not able to see the dashboard per se. We have to keep checking the dashboard every other day. We have to go to the additional notices and see whether any new notices have come, because otherwise it is difficult for us. From the central tax perspective, we don't get the notices uploaded online. We get only physical notices with a DIN number that is being generated, and our area of work will start maybe checking whether this particular officer who has issued the particular notice is the proper officer under the Act. So to understand whether he is the proper officer under the Act, we have to refer to section 5 and the parameters mentioned in section 5. Now these are the relevant notifications and circulars that have been received so far under section 5, beginning from 2 bar 2017, 14 bar 2017 and 51. But I am more interested in the circulars that are issued in connection to section 5. That is 1, 3 and 31. 1 and 3 of 2017 and 31 of 2018. Why I would like to say before going to the circulars, because the circulars tells you the territorial jurisdiction of each and every officer and what are the powers that they have with respect to what are those areas where whether a superintendent is eligible to pass an order under section 7, pass and show cause notice under section 73, or it is only the assistant commissioner who has the right to do so. All these points we'll be discussing in the upcoming slides. But with respect to the standard operating procedure of GST, where each and every section, the entire act per se is run on the basis of notifications. As you can see on my screen, the notification 2/2017 notifying the jurisdiction of central offices have been still amended and amended up to 11th March 22. We can see it on the screen. And with appointing common adjudicating authority for a show cause notice issued by DGG under GST. Now, my question here is will be today, as I started reading this particular two sections, there are so many doubts which are coming up. Whether the concept of retrospective effect will apply to these notifications where 11th March only there is an appointment of common adjudicating authority for the show cause notice issued by DGGA. So what happens if the show cause notice already issued or already handled? Will this retrospective effect concept apply to these type of notification is one question that was cropping my mind, that we'll keep it at the end of the discussion as we complete the particular section 5 per se. Similarly, assigning jurisdiction of various powers, this is just for more of self-reading for me to understand that these many notifications have been given and these many amendments have been made to the notifications. So as and when these posts of the officers are increasing, like appointing an additional assistant director for the DG audit, then in case the it is quite but natural to assign powers to them, and accordingly such notifications are being issued by the GST department to define the powers, to define the jurisdiction so that it is not overlapping. And if it is overlapping, then we have a case there to say that this particular officer, he is not having power under this particular notification. So the notice itself is void. We can proceed our argument in that particular way as far as these notifications are concerned. I just want to spend some little bit of time on the circulars because this is the circular which clearly defines the powers of the respective officers, which you are going to see whether they have the right on this particular aspect. Section 1, Circular 1 of 2017 talks only about the registrations and composition levy, only that particular aspect. As you can see, while the superintendent has the power on registration, accepting application forms, approving, making queries, approving an amendment, approving a cancellation or suspension, or migration, all these things are done by the superintendent of the respective jurisdiction, whereas up to the assistant commissioner or deputy commissioner, additional director or deputy director, he can work. They have got functions with respect to composition levy, casual taxable perversion, revocation, physical verification of business premises. Meaning to say, in case of physical verification of business premises, the permission has to be sought from AC or DC, as the case may be, or additional director or deputy director is my understanding of these functions. Whereas up to the superintendent level, as a superintendent, the superintendent has got power to accept the application of registration, approve the registration, accept an application of amendment, or he also has the right to cancel or suspension. And with respect to migration, he can exercise his powers to give the assessee these particular services. I would like to use the term services here. These particular services he can render it as an office in the post of the superintendent. Whereas when it comes to rule section 10 subsection 5 or the proviso with respect to casual taxable person, or section 30 read with rule 23, or rule 25 with respect to physical verification of business premises, there has to be a permission which has to be sought from the assistant commissioner or deputy commissioner, as the case may be. With respect to circular 3/2017 and 31/2017, it talks about the hierarchy of powers that are being vested to the various officers, beginning from the principal commissioner or commissioner, then comes to additional commissioner, then joint commissioner, then assistant commissioner, then superintendent, and then inspector. That is how the entire circular is being worded. If you go through the circular, it is the highest hierarchy, the person with the highest powers, and then it comes down to up to the inspector level. The powers are being clearly notified in the circular 3/2017 and supported by 31/2018. I have combined both the circulars for the purpose of understanding, but preferably I have just made some alterations where I have not started from the highest hierarchy. I have started only from the lowest person in the hierarchy to the highest hierarchy, because we might have so many discussions in this particular area of the circulars. We'll start from the inspector, the lowest authority as per the circular, the lowest authority. An inspector has got power to inspect the goods in movement. All of this would have undergone this experience of the dealer calling us or the assessee calling us or telling, sir, ma'am, our vehicle has been caught by the officer. They are asking for e-way bill, they are asking for that, they are asking for this. So this right, the inspector has got. He doesn't have to wait for anybody. He as the authority designated to do an inspection of goods and movement. As per section 68 subsection 3, an inspector can inspect the vehicles on movement. He can ask for production of books, rule 56 sub rule 17. He can physically verify the goods, rule 58 sub rule 5. All these three things he can do, against which, and they will issue an MOV1 or MOV2. And when it comes to passing an order, and when it comes to the adjudication, he loses his rights. So as an inspector, he can do only these three things per se. He can inspect the goods in movement, he can ask for production of the documents, he can physically verify the goods and match whether the documents are support the goods that are in the particular conveyance are matching the documents that are being submitted to. Other than that, he does not have any power. So in case we have come across so many situations where the inspector, this is on the practical aspect of it. The inspector holds the vehicle, and after holding the vehicle, he will ask the member of the conveyance, most probably the driver, to pay the tax under DRC 03, whereby the inspector is stopping the assessee from having the benefit of going in for an adjudication, which all of us are very clear about. When a DRC is being paid, we lose the opportunity of appealing against a particular issue that is being completely lost. The inspector on one side will force that unless and otherwise you pay this money through DRC 03, we will not leave the conveyance and we will not let the vehicles. The assessee on the other side, he will always have the attitude of buying less problems. Instead of going into the adjudication, he wouldn't bother to wait for the 1 day time or 2 day time. And here where our role becomes very important to convince, or not, I will not say the word say convince, to tell both the inspector and the assessee, telling that if the way in which the inspector is issuing an MOV1 or MOV2 or MOV3 is wrong against the provisions of law, where it is a litigatable point, where in adjudication we have a chance to release the goods without paying any penalty, then in such a case, it is difficult. It is better for the practitioner to inform the assessee, at least to tell the assessee and explain, sir, this is what, don't pay in DRC 03. If you're going to pay in DRC 03, you will not have the opportunity of going for an appeal on a later date when you are going to pay this much of penalty, because there are certain errors that might happen in e-way bill for which a minimum 1,000 rupees would do as a simple penalty, instead of 150% or 200%, as the case may be. For 200%, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. 200% of the tax portion paying is something out of question. But if the assessee had already agreed to paying the DRC 03, then immediately he loses the benefit of filing an appeal. And here where, like Arup sir in the beginning told, here where training officers plays a major role. An inspector is going to attend a session, you can always tell him that you don't force the client to pay the money through DRC 03. He can only issue a notice in MOV1, MOV2, MOV3, as the case may be, that he has inspected and the e-way bill is wrong. He cannot do anything else. And there, this knowledge sharing plays a major role. Now comes to superintendent. Determination of tax, scrutiny of returns. See, all these points are we are quite familiar with. Assessment of non-filers. I will come to the one that I've highlighted in green. Earlier, uh, uh, as per circular 3/2017, uh, all the powers were vested to the assistant commissioner or additional assistant commissioner with respect to willful misrepresentation or suppression of facts. Whereas by circular 31 bar 2018, this power was added also to the super. It was removed from the assistant commissioner level and it got back to the superintendent itself. Mainly sections 74 related activities where these powers were given to the superintendent. So up to the circular issued on circular number 31 bar 2018, it was only the assistant commissioners who had the power with respect to willful cases dealing with willful misrepresentation suppression under section 74. Other than that, all the superintendent, the powers have been scrutiny of returns or with respect to special audit inspection, search and seizure with respect to issue of summons, erroneous tax, recovery of tax notices and orders, police assistance, etc. All these powers of superintendent will have to be carried only when he has proper permission from his higher authorities. Say, for example, summons section 70, read with rule 132. The superintendent cannot directly to issue a summons per se, or with respect to inspection, search, and seizure, he must have sought proper permission from his higher authorities, and only with respect to with the permission that he can enter the premises of the SSC and conduct a search, inspection, or seizure as the case may be. So these are the powers which are vested with respect to the superintendent. With respect to the deputy commissioner or assistant commissioner, uh, see, if we go through some of the information that we see here are overlapping. The reason being, which we are going to see, the jurisdiction of all these officers with respect to the superintendent or with respect to the deputy commissioner or the assistant commissioner or higher hierarchy, the jurisdiction is fixed on the basis of monetary levels, I would say. Up to a particular level, the superintendent can do all these activities. Up to the values, we have with 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs is the various zones. Up to 10 lakhs and 2 crores and above 2 crores. 1 crore and above 1 crore, 20 lakhs, 2 crores and above 2 crores. All these limits have been already predetermined by. Excuse me. So what happens is, when monetary limits are fixed for the jurisdiction, uh, my thought process is something like this. If I am wrong, the honorable members may correct me. Everybody can do all these activities, irrespective of whether you are the superintendent or whether you are the assistant commissioner. Because when the monetary limits are fixed, the assistant commissioner can issue show cause notice, can issue do a provisional assessment, can do a summary assessment, can do conclusion of audit, can do recovery of tax, penalty for failure, power to impose penalty. All those things the DC and AC can do, and also the superintendent also can do the same thing if the value of tax involved is in the defined monetary parameters. This was what my understanding of this particular section and this particular circular as far as my knowledge level is concerned. With respect to additional joint commissioner, an additional joint commissioner can authorize an inspection as we so he can permit search and seizure, he can permit to make copies of seized documents, he can permit inventory of goods seized, he can permit access to business premises. See, all these are permissions. When it comes to the level of additional and joint commissioner, all these things are permissions. So technically speaking, if we are to receive a summon, if we are to receive a search, inspection, seizure, if we are to receive uh, any yeah, documentation verification that is being done, we can always check whether this particular documents that are being sought for permission, if these documents contain the signature of the additional or joint commissioner. If the permission is not there, then we don't have to let the subordinate officers to enter the premises, or we can always say they did not have right, and we can always inform the SSC that unless and otherwise proper documentation is there, we do not have to abide by. Or we can always put it across that the permission sought is not very clear and the authority does not have the right to venture into the company, or right to enter the company, or right to look into the books of documents, or right to seize the documents, all those things can be checked. So that is where these powers play a major role, and understanding of these sections help us to identify whether due permissions are being sought. With the 30th September fastly approaching for issuing notice under 1718, I am sure that most of the people who are here will be attending to uh, such notices, and they'll be busy preparing the replies for such notices. So with that, finally we'll come to the power of the principal commissioner. Principal commissioner, the head of the entire hierarchy. Though it is the circular only gives you the 2 points with respect to permission to grant extension of time, initiation of recovery proceedings. All of us know that depending on the graveness of the situation, the principal commissioner has a say in all the works that are done by subordinates with respect to any of the proceedings under GST. Like as I told you, these are the monetary limits for that have been assigned to various proper officers as defined by the Act. The superintendent can interfere when the value is of the disputed taxes less than up to 10 lakhs. He can interfere. If it is an IGST, the 20 lakhs. If it is both the dispute involved is with respect to both central tax and IGST, then that also up to 20 lakhs. With respect to deputy commissioners and assistant commissioners, up to 1 crore with respect to, if the dispute is only with respect to central tax, or he can interfere if it is 2 crore, up to 2 crores if it involves dispute with both IGST and IGST alone. Additional commissioners and joint commissioners above 1 crore, above 2 crores as the case may be. But if we read the circular, it says no upper limit. So above 2 crores, they can go to any level of monetary value. They can interfere and exercise their powers and rights with respect to the monetary aspects of the turnover, no, the tax disputes that are being involved in such a particular case. This circular 31, I just wanted to just check on these highlighted items. It says the central tax officers of the audit commission rates and Directorate General of Goods and Service Tax Intelligence shall exercise the power only to issue show cause notice. A show cause notice issued by them shall be adjudicated by the competent central tax officers. So they cannot do anything other than show cause notice. The adjudication is done by the competent officers, is what this particular circular, which gives clear jurisdiction. And the second point, if there are more than one noticee, it says wherever the highest monetary limit, that particular jurisdictional officer can take up the case. That is what the second point, quite an interesting one. And the seventh point in the circular, it says the value involved is more than 5 crores, it shall be held by the rank of additional directors. This is just a procedural thing. I mean, we do not have much thing to discuss as far as point number 7 is concerned. And again, even the 8th point is slightly similar. It should be done by the adjudicating authority competent to decide the case of involving highest amount of central tax and integrated tax. How do they determine the competence? It is again the question. It is totally internal, and depending upon the nature of the case involved, depending upon the value involved, the competence can be decided by the higher authorities. The problem here, on a practical note, I would say the problem here will be the jurisdictional allotment to central and state tax officers, where the state tax officers are quite trained with dealing with provisions with respect to goods, whereas they do not have much knowledge of dealing with services, and it is vice versa. In that case, the competency decisions plays a major role as to who is competent, whether it is the state officer or the central officer who will be able to handle the case, because it is being handled by both. Even when we go through section 6, it gives simultaneous powers to both the state and central officers. A state officer can issue a notice of tax both under CGST, both the central tax and state tax. Similarly, a central officer can issue a notice for collection of state tax also. So there, this particular circular gives a detailed idea of how these powers are to be exercised and how these powers are to be delegated. The time now is 9:30. I'll just take 10 more minutes of time to do section 6. Section 6, authorization of officers of state tax or union territory tax as proper officer in certain circumstances. In fact, I was so intrigued by section 6 than section 5, where I didn't have much to discuss on section 5 because these are predetermined parameters of who the proper officer was and what are the powers that he has got. Now, the relevant notification pertaining to section 6 is 39/2017, dated 13/10/2017, and 10/2018, dated 23/1/2018. They give the cross empowerment for issue of refunds with respect to section 54 and 55, rule with 96, with a small change with respect to the 96. Section notification 39 gave with read with section rule 96, whereby section 10 notification 10/2018, they gave similar sub rules only were permitted. 8 was not included in the cross empowerment. It was a very small change. I could not interpret much on this particular notification, which I wanted to discuss with the group on a later time or today if time permits. So this is with respect to notification. Now, the first subsection of section 6 is very simple. It says, without prejudice to the provisions of the Act, officers appointed in the SGST or UTGST are authorized to be proper officers for the purpose of the Act. This is quite but natural because it is a sharing tax between the central and state. So they'll have powers to share with each other with respect to conduct of GST per se. Section 6, subsection 2, the sub-provision A also is quite simple. It says, where any proper officer issues an order under this Act, also issue an order under SGST Act. That goes without saying. So let us not spend time on this also. Our major area is section 6(2)(b), where a proper officer under the SGST and the UTGST Act has initiated any proceedings in the subject matter, no proceeding shall be initiated by the proper officer under this Act on the same subject matter. Now, here where we'll have to spend a little bit of time, very clearly says there cannot be overlapping powers. Right? When a proceeding is initiated by the state GST officer on the same subject, the central GST officer cannot conduct a proceeding on the same subject matter. There are two words which you have to look into. One is the word proceeding. The second one is word subject matter. So what do we mean by the subject matter? Under common understanding, supposing an SGST officer issues a notice for difference in GSTR 2B3, 2A and 3B. And the proceedings of the notice has been issued. The proceedings are not completed per se. Then the CGST officer on the same subject matter, he may not issue a GSTR 2A 3B notice. He is not supposed to issue. That is what section 6(2)(b) says. Here the subject matter is same. Whereas, supposing there is a difference in the output liability with respect to the turnover, then CGST officer for the same year can issue a notice because the subject matter here is not same. So there are two parameters. One is no proceeding shall be initiated on the same subject matter. So if the subject matter is different, they can simultaneously initiate proceedings. The subject matter is same, they cannot initiate proceedings simultaneously. Now, here where there is an overlapping provision, this is what we are going to discuss. Section 70 versus 6(2)(b). This is an interesting parameter. Now, let us understand what the section 70 says. Section 70 says the proper officer can conduct an inquiry. What is the difference between inquiry and proceedings? There is no Google definition as difference between inquiry and proceedings. There is a but reading of the meaning inquiry, the meaning inquiry has got a judicial taint on that, whereas proceedings are more administrative in nature. There is a difference between inspection and inquiry. I was referring to the CRP code, and there the difference, various differences between inspection and inquiry are there. Inspection, inquiry and inquiry are there, but I couldn't find a difference per se between the term proceedings and the term and inquiry. Why we are spending much time here is that the proper officer under this act shall have power to summon. 1 minute. Power to summon any person whose attendance he considers necessary. So, section 70 gives the proper officer the power to summon, to give evidence and produce the documents. Whereas section 62B says there cannot be overlapping provisions. The question is, can these two happen simultaneously? A situation where a show cause notice is being issued by the state officer asking him to produce all the details with respect to difference in turnover, with respect to payment of RCM, or with respect to why can't ITC be reversed on a particular ineligible credit. So there are so many on various parameters he can issue a show cause notice, right? So let us assume hypothetically the proper officer of the state has issued a show cause notice. Simultaneously, a central officer, a proper officer of course, has issued a summon under section 70. Now, will it be treated as proceedings on the same subject matter? Will we be able to query? Here where I was just came across a very interesting two case laws. These two case laws are for the revenue. There are around 16 case laws in this parameter with the section 70 versus section 62B. But specifically, I wanted to choose only what is favoring the revenue here, because that only gives us more insight as to how to take up the case. One with respect to coupon counter PG Natarajan versus Directorate General of GST Intelligence. It's a 2022 case, and another one is GK Trading versus Union of India. In both the cases, the judges, the honorable respective high courts have explained. In fact, the coupon counter PG Natarajan is nothing but he is the owner of KPN Travels, a very popular travels company in South India, running flights of buses. See, it was a 24 pages judgment which I happened to read. I'm just giving the crux of it because short of time. Both the cases, the similar ruling that has taken place where they say an inquiry cannot be equated with the term proceedings. Section 70 is only an inquiry, and the term inquiry is judicial in nature, right? Whereas proceedings are only administrative activity that is being done by the department. So, by a proper officer, if he is going to invoke his power under section 70 for an inquiry, when a proceeding under section 62B has already been happening, still both the cases, both the show cause notice or both the inquiry and the proceedings have to be handled by the assessee, and such activities will not be covered under section 62B of overlapping cases. This was the detailed orders that is given by both the Honorable High Courts of Madras and the Honorable High Court of Allahabad. It has got a great impact. And here I had one doubt, which I think I'll open it to the honorable members here. Sir, see, my question is something like this. Just raise the question in the previous slide also. See, under section 70, we issue a summons. And when we issue a summon to, when the summon is received by the assessee, he is supposed to present himself and give the documentary of evidence, and he has to abide by the summons and give the details as he is asked about, because it is a judicial proceeding. It is equivalent to, it's covered under the Code of Civil Procedure, all the stuff are there. So once an inquiry happens, the next part is to start the proceedings. So is it not an inquiry the first step of administrative proceedings is that was a question that I was not able to answer to myself. I thought I'll open this court. In that being the case, let us say that an inquiry is issued by a central officer, and after the inquiry, the proceedings are initiated as per the other provisions of GST. When will these proceedings be treated as an overlapping under section 6(2)(b) was the doubt that I have. And I happened to read an article similar to that, where this was a question raised here, the interpretation raised here. It is clear that under GST law, any statement made by a person under section 70 of the CGST Act is relevant for the purpose of a prosecution proceedings before the court rather than in adjudication proceedings. So will it have an impact on section 6(2)(b)? Whether there will be a difference between a prosecution proceedings and an adjudication proceedings? Can this be interpreted like that? This was also my question, which I was not able to answer this question. These two aspects, with these two questions open, I'll conclude my initiation for the day with the last section 623. Any proceedings for rectification, appeal and revision wherever applicable of any order passed by an officer appointed under the Act shall not lie before an officer appointed under the SGST Act. That is self-explanatory. We do not have much argument on that. So with this, the very little knowledge that I have, I've just shared with all of you. I wouldn't even say that I made a presentation. I would say that I only initiated about section 5 and 6, and thank you once again, for giving me the opportunity to read section 5 and 6 to such an in-depth level. Thank you for patiently. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for this insightful presentation on section 5 and section 6. And as you have opened some queries for the house to discuss upon, first let me see that if there are any queries in the chat box with you. Praveenji, are you raising some query?
Yes, sir.
Haji.
Sir, as far as this section 5 subsection 4 is concerned, yeah, 5 subsection 4 reads that notwithstanding anything contained in this section, an appellate authority shall not exercise the powers and discharge the duties conferred or imposed on any other officer of central tax. Now, vis-a-vis section 107 subsection 11.
Yes.
Where in the case of an appellate authority, the second proviso which says, if he is of the opinion that any tax has not been paid or short paid or erroneously refunded, then he shall not pass an order without giving a show cause notice. So how to reconcile between these two provisions, sir?
Ruti, can I take my handle to allow a presentation?
Yeah, you're a co-host.
I have joined from another ID also.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I'll do.
Ma'am, just presenting both the sessions, so I would request you to give your views on that. And then the participants might give their views.
So essentially, what I think, ma'am, what Praveenji is sharing is that when in one section 5, it's being told that he cannot carry out the functions of an adjudicating authority. So how in 107.11 he's been given the jurisdiction of the power to re-adjudicate the matter, right? Praveenji, if your query is that, right?
Yes, sir. As per 107.11, it appears that the appellate authority enters into the shoes of an adjudicating authority.
Yes.
This is a relevant provision.
Yeah, provided further. So, Arpitji, may I share my view?
Yes.
Yeah. So, see, I had dealt with this earlier. So, the issue that is there, that is being forwarded by the department, is on this particular point that, why appellate authority has been given the opportunity of being also an adjudicating authority is, as you can see the appeal provisions, he doesn't have the power to remand back the matter as it was there in the earlier regime. He could remand back the matter for a fresh adjudication, right? So under GST, there is no fresh adjudication. So even if there is some short payment or non-payment or erroneous refund, that has to be finally determined by the appellate authority only. So that's why, in my view, this particular proviso to section 107(11) is given, because he will be the second adjudicating authority if there is something, some detection. Because, so I'll give a practical example. In a recent issue, there was this ITC reversal matter, Rule 42. So adjudicating authority only went on plain vanilla calculation that total taxable value is this much, exempt value this much, total supply is this much, your total ITC is so your common credit to be reversed is this much. And what did the RTP do? RTP challenged that no, my common RTP is not, my common credit is not this, because I'm only taking ITC for taxable supplies and my common credit is only to this extent. And he filed an appeal. But when it went to appeal, the appellate authority saw that the exempt supply that is claiming, that is not an exempt supply only, that is a taxable supply as per classification. So here, since the appellate authority does not have the power to set aside the matter back to the adjudicating authority, he had to, determine the tax and, pass an appellate order. So that is the reason I think this proviso is there. And now, Arpitji, what is the conflict with 5 subsection 4 that we have to see?
Sir, I have to say one thing.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, to add to what Arupji said, the first appellate authority is the final fact-finding authority. Beyond the first appellate authority, when it goes to the tribunal, there is no fact-finding that can happen. So that is the reason why the appellate authority is being given the last fact-finding authority. And what the 5(4) is giving is, the appellate authority cannot interfere with the day-to-day matters such as scrutiny, audit. Those things they cannot do. But doesn't mean that when a case is come for appeal, we cannot look into the facts. That is my view.
Arupji, in my opinion, what you have said is the correct background of section 107(11). If I can refer back to section 107, is the correct background, because if we see section 107(11) main provision, it gives the appellate authority the power to make further inquiry as may necessary, pass such order as it thinks fit, as it thinks just and proper, confirming, modifying and annulling. So he has the power to modify. Now there was one decision which had come across, that what is the difference between a power to reduce and power to modify, because there was a similar change in the power of appellate authority in central excise regime, where the word reduce was replaced with modify, and therein the apex court held that the power modify includes both to reduce and both to increase. Now if we conclude that section 107(11) allows the power to increase, now the question comes to what extent. Now supposedly there is one issue which is on which the assessing authority has created a demand of ₹10, and on that issue the appellate authority thinks that the demand should have been 12. This is one power to increase. Now the second power would be to take a completely unrelated matter which was not even raised in the show cause notice, and then to decide it. This is something wherein the courts would have to come in, because supposedly I went before the appellate authority for a 3B2A matter, and we started with section 17 subsection 5. Now whether he has the power to invoke a matter which was not at all in the initial course of proceedings, if we go through section 107(11), yes, because there are many this provision was there in central excise and service tax also, but the power to modify, and the word modify was somewhere not present at that time in the manner in which it is there in section 107(11). But at the same time, section 5 subsection 4 is something new which was not there earlier in the statute, which I believe. And up till now, whatever the High Court decisions have come, interestingly, no representation from the department council has been made vis-a-vis section 107(11). So till now, whatever I have read, there are 2 High Court decisions wherein they held that the appellate authority cannot go beyond the initial show cause notice. So 10711 vis-a-vis section 5 subsection 4 is something which has to be raised by the revenue also in their defense, and which has not been raised by the revenue till now in their defense when similar matters have come before the court wherein the appellate authority have exceeded beyond the show cause notice. So principally, I will go with you for section 10711, but if section 5 subsection 4 is brought in place, then somewhere down the line a harmonious reading has to be done, and how the courts would read is something for us to see in the future.
Yeah, if you have any other views, Gurjit sir is there, Paul sir, anybody who wants to share?
Arup sir,
Anybody
Chetan here. Arup sir, Chetan here.
Yeah, Chetan ji, boliye.
Very good morning,
Good morning.
of you. Thank you very much, ma'am, for such a wonderful deliberation. Arup sir, when one of my case same matter is going on, it was related to the late payment of interest. Earlier, the show cause been issued. Before that, clarification about gross and net matter of the GA interest. And now the matter is pursuing for all the proceedings with the Joint Commissioner Appeal Nasik. Now herein they have definitely gone into this power of 10711 and certain other things they have demanded, which we have to comply. Otherwise, our interest matter will not get concluded. So obviously what Arpit sir was trying to tell you, which you have deliberated initially, definitely this is modification, alteration or addition. These all things are going there in the GST appeal. This is my current experience with the Nasik GST appeal.
Yeah, it is there. But yeah, one thing is only what we are also, which Arpit also said, we are also challenging, which is that, like if you see this, whether I'll be put to show cause, whether the show cause notice that is there, whether that has to be generated by the appellate authority or by the adjudicating authority. That is one thing that is there.
That answer will come after many days.
And what I would to add that when 107 second proviso provides there's a show cause that the notice which has to be issued by the appellate authority has to be within the time limit specified in section 73-74. So what 107 seeks to say that yes, appellate authority would become the adjudicating authority. But the notice within the time limit of section 73-74. But then what happens to the option given by section 73-74 for paying the reduced penalty? That option would not be able to, that option appellate authority would not be able to give. So somewhere down the line, if the appellate authority is raising a matter, I would be put to a worse situation than if the same matter would have been raised by the assessing officer. So therein also section 5.4 becomes very important with a way to understand section 10711, and somewhere down the line they are contradictory to each other.
And I think, Arpit ji, one more thing about 5.4 is it's actually trying to say about the general power, and 10711 says about the specific power of the appellate authority. So like he cannot go ahead and revoke an registration. He may pass an order saying that okay, the registration may be revoked, but he cannot go ahead and do all those other functions that an adjudicating authority could do. Yeah, Paul sir wants to add, I think.
11 में जब वो assessment होगा,
Yes, Paul sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, one more thing is, if the appellate authority is given the power to show cause notice on some other matters also, then the time limit also has to be seen. Whether the time limit will be applicable or the time limit will not be applicable, that also has to be seen. But I can.
Also, that has been provided in section second proviso to section 10711 that the order has to be within time limit of section 73-74.
Yes. Again, if he is going to give a SEN, then the time limit has to be seen. Time limit has to be seen. So if the time limit is not there, then he cannot modify it or enhance it, because when he is going to enhance it, as RPG said, I'm right, it is modified, increase is also covered. So in that situation, even if he is going to issue a show cause notice, it should be within the time limit, sir. That is my view, sir.
But then,
thank you, sir.
But then if he issues a show notice, it would not be a show cause notice under section 73-74. It would be a show cause notice under section 10711. So thereby, when appellate authority is raising an issue, I am not being given the opportunity to pay penalty at reduced amount. If the order is confirmed, then the entire amount of penalty would have been given. So 107.11 is somewhere derogatory than section 73-74 also.
Sir, and again, the second proviso to 107.11, it only specifies for the period of limitation of the order and not for the period of limitation of show cause notice.
Yes,
So-
yes.
Yeah, so the appellate authority which is giving show cause notice, even if it is beyond the period of limitation as given in 73-74, would it still be a valid show cause notice, sir?
See, it is only the time limit for passing of the order. It is not
Correct.
giving a of issuance of the notice. In section 73-74, there is a separate provision for giving that mandating the time limit for
Correct.
70. So there is no time limit for issuance of the show cause notice.
So then appellate authority can issue show cause notice even beyond the period of limitation which is specified in 73-74, but the order has to come within period of limitation.
Yes, because they are not taking the procedure from 73-74, they are only taking the time limit for 73 and 74. However, there are matters before the courts which have been raised before the High Court that both 73(2) and 73(9) time limit have to be seen, and whenever a show cause notice has been issued, minimum time limit of 3 months have to be given for conclusion and minimum time limit of 6 months have to be given for conclusion under section 74.
तर मग हे जे मिस होतं ते हे weekdays मध्ये
Hello?
चालेल का मग त्याचे?
Hello, yes.
Hello.
अच्छा, अच्छा.
हाँ चेतन जी बोलिए.
Arpitji, then in whatever you are saying, in such case where the appellate authority will issue a show cause, though it may not be under 73-74, then by which section that notice will be issued? Itself under 107.11?
Again, just
नाही का? कसं-
Hello?
पण विचारलं.
see,
ठीक आहे ना.
this unless the appellant is given notice to show cause again, and the order is passed within the time limit specified in the section 73-74. So the notice would be issued in under section 107.11 only.
2 weeks झाले.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so we have one more question. I think Arpit ji, वहाँ पे chat में. Can we use section 6(2)(b) when the same proper officer uses multiple proceedings such as scrutiny and audit to demand tax for the same period like 2A? Should be on the same subject.
See, in my opinion, section 62, if the same officer, yes, the query is if the same officer is doing the proceedings on the same matter which he has done earlier.
Yeah.
So in that case, it would be 2, and he cannot review his own order. That has to be done under section 108. He cannot adjudicate on the same matter which he has adjudicated previously under section 73-74. In that case, the power is only with the commission under section 108.
I had a similar case, sir. I mean, I've just
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a similar case right now with me, where the search inspection was given, permission was given of the proceedings for 5 years from 17-18, 18-19, 19-20, 20-21, 21-22. We had submitted all the data, everything is, and the proceedings was dropped after accepting suitable reply from us. Everything was dropped. Now I have received from the same jurisdiction, from the same officer, an ASMT 10 for a specific part of the proceeding mentioned in the earlier completed proceedings. Is it permitted under section 6(2)(b)? I mean, I had the same doubt per se.
In this, the court is yet to take matter because I am also having the same matter wherein we have submitted entire document before the anti-evasion team. They chose only one matter and they proceeded ahead and decided the matter, and rest of the matters were not taken ahead by them. Now, what we are saying that when we have submitted all the information what they sought and they have made a mind to take only this matter, that means they are they have agreed to my stand on rest of the matters. But what the department is now raising is that they have not decided other matters. They have only decided to take one matter. So therefore, we would treat that this matter has not been decided by them. So this is something which has to be decided by the court, that whenever I am submitting an information which has been sought, and out of that only one point has been raised. So whether it would be treated that for the rest of the matters, whether the officer applied his mind and decided the matter in favor of the assessee, or he only raised the matter only once. So this is something which will be taken on, and we are also taking this submission, because what happened in one of our case, that survey proceedings were initiated, we submitted all the matters, then audit has been initiated under section 65 after conclusion of the survey proceedings. Now the audit, what audit is saying, that whatever matters the anti-evasion team raised, we would not be taking those matters, but rest of the matters we will see, and we will decide whether any demand is to be raised on rest of the matter. So this is something which has to be seen. And one thing which I would like to raise before the members is, supposedly my survey takes place on August 2018. Now the conclusion report is being prepared in March 2022. Whether the authorities have the power to stretch the matter up to March 2022 and covering the matter up to 2022, or they can only seek the matter for the period up to August 2018, because they only got the permission up till August 2018. They don't have once they get the INS 07, they cannot get the right to extend it up to March 2022. In my opinion, we have raised the ground that if the survey proceedings have been conducted up to a certain date, they cannot ask me information for a period which is falling after that date. They can only ask me information only up to the date of survey. Presently, what is happening, whenever a CGST office conducts an inspection, say in 2021, and they are concluding in 2023, they seek the information up to 2023. They do not restrict it up to 2021.
Sir, I have one query in this, sir. Hello?
Yeah, Praveen, yeah.
Haji, sir. Sir, now what would happen in the reverse case, sir? Say, for example, an ASMT 10 is issued by the jurisdictional officer, and the reply to it is given in ASMT 11, and an order is passed in ASMT 12, dropping all the, let's say, 2A, 3B mismatches of ASMT 10. Now, subsequently, inspection under section 67 is being inspection is conducted against that assessee, and the inspecting authorities, they do not find any incriminating records, but just to find out something, they again pick up 2A 3B differences and give a show cause notice, intimation notice under section 73, and again bringing out 2A versus 3B differences. So now the questions are, sir, first is, can the inspecting officials enter into the area of 2A versus 3B when that information was already available with them? There was no reason for them to initiate inspection. Second thing is, for a matter which is already decided by the adjudicating authority by giving an order in ASMT 12, can the inspecting officials enter that domain for a matter which is already decided?
Praveen, in my opinion, once ASMT 12 the matter stands concluded, and no one else can raise the matter other than under section 108. So this is my opinion, because ASMT 12 itself is an order to drop the proceedings, and the officer having been made up the mind that all the discrepancies which were there in relation to that matter have been resolved by the taxpayer, and he has accepted the reply. So in my opinion, once it has been concluded ASMT 12, the survey team or anti-evasion team cannot go into the domain of domain of 3B versus 2A. At the same time, what I would like to add is, when we go through section 67, the intent to evade has to be there, and in my opinion, 3B 2A mismatch should not become a point for which investigation has to be launched under section 67. This argument that this we have taken in our cases, but it is still yet to be decided.
Thank you, sir.
RPG, here I would like to add, like in Calcutta.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
One issue I want to raise: whenever an inspection is taken up under 67, can notice be issued under 73?
Yes, that is what I am saying. Once an inspection has been taken up, and therein, if we go through the power inspection, it is clearly that the intent to evade has to be there before the GC giving the permission. So the notice, if it is being under section 73, the very basis for conducting the inspection itself falls.
So Soumya ma'am, to your earlier question, wherein you'd asked that whether the same officer uses multiple proceedings for scrutiny and audit. So in Calcutta High Court, we have a judgment on RP Bilcon.
Yes.
So, but what does RP Bilcon say is that if you have already conducted a scrutiny and issued a show cause notice, so you have to close that proceeding first, and then you can go into a fresh proceeding. Say either it's an audit or anti-evasion or things like that. So they have discussed on that, but unfortunately in RP Bilcon it was not discussed whether the same matter can be again taken or not, because 6.2b is all about parallel proceedings by two different authorities. So whether 6.2b will also be applicable when
No.
the same
In my opinion, 6.2b does not needs to be applied for this. Section 108 is there for the review by commissioner.
Right.
Yes,
So
sir. In
whether
my case also, what we did is we requested him to withdraw the proceedings, but we did not use 6.2b because 6.2b is for parallel proceeding. In this case, the same officer did a scrutiny and he proceeded to adjudicate the matter. And while another audit also was initiated on the same subject, it was also adjudicated. So both the orders were passed for the same subject. I mean, audit had some more points, whereas scrutiny had only this 2A versus 3B. Audit also had 2A versus 3B. So in this case, what we did is we asked the officer to withdraw that 2A, 3B because another elaborate procedure has already been done. And where all other matters are also covered. So he agreed to withdraw 2A, 3B under scrutiny adjudication.
Similarly, ma'am, same thing with me too. Only just yesterday I had submitted the reply because in the section 65 they had nearly given 25 parameters and all the 25 parameters were answered and the proceedings were dropped. After accepting a reply, wherever we had to pay the interest part, some fees that was pending that we paid and the case was closed. The same officer for one particular year, for one GSTR 2A, 3B mismatch, he had given another ASMT 10. And then we had to call him and tell him that this has been already closed and the proceedings are over. He cannot pass one ASMT 10 scrutiny query for the same issue. And then he has agreed to drop the order and he has asked us to file an online reply for the same. That is the status.
Wonderful. So I think RPG, आपका जो query था ना, उसमें about the cutoff date for inspection. In West Bengal, at least, what they are following is the date of inspection that is happening. Till that date only, they are seeing all the financials, not post the date of inspection. So if some inspection has happened in 18, they are restricting themselves to 18 only. They are not, if they have to like in one of my matters, there was a classification issue. So what they did is that, till 2018, they first concluded the show cause notice and then there was another inspection. Okay, which we challenge that, you already had this knowledge because that there is a classification issue. So how can you do an inspection? Because we were ready to pay on our own. So for that, they again started a fresh proceeding. So that's how they are doing in West Bengal at least.
But here in CGST in Rajasthan, they are extending well beyond the period of date of inspection.
Okay.
Is it happening in other states in CGST also, or it is only Rajasthan? If members can share experience.
No, CGST also, like Odisha, West Bengal at least, and Assam and all, we are seeing that they are going only till that cutoff date. I'm not sure about other states.
Okay.
Other states,
So,
but
particular
we have
Rajasthan, so Gaurav here, particular Rajasthan,
Yeah.
I had experienced that for 17-18, an entire audit was conducted under section 65 and 82 was issued and matter was well closed. Now, different wings in terms of enforcement or calling data under 151, they are sending roving inquiries again for 17-18, in typically Rajasthan.
Rajasthan is
So they are asking questions like आपने RCM भरा है, उसका पूरा ब्यौरा दीजिए, किस हेड में भरा है, क्यों भरा है और कैसे भरा है, जबकि पूरा ऑडिट हो चुका है.
Rajasthan is adventurous
नहीं,
and
वो
we are
शुद्ध हिंदी में लिख के भेजते हैं सर, तो नोटिस तो पहली बार में समझ में भी नहीं आता है क्या लिखना चाह रहे हैं.
yes, sir.
And repeatedly sir,
No, now
एक
to
चीज
we are getting
एनफोर्समेंट ऑडिट ने कर दिया, फिर एनफोर्समेंट वापस से उसको कर रहा है सर, और बोलते हैं
No,
वो
no, now
ऑडिट
the-
था, ये एनफोर्समेंट है, हमारे पास दूसरा इन्फॉर्मेशन है, वी वांट टू डू एन इंक्वायरी अगेन.
No, Gauravji, even for MP, no, Madhya Pradesh, they're issuing notices only in Hindi. And some of the officers, they expect that you have to reply in Hindi only. So I
सर
told,
वो हिंदी में लिखते हैं ना सर, एक तो समझ में नहीं आता, 2 बार में समझ में आता है कि एग्जैक्टली वो बोलना क्या चाह रहा है.
and वो reply will, drafting a reply in Hindi is again another huge challenge.
सर एमपी तो सर पर्टिकुलर चैलेंज कहाँ पे आ रहा है कि वो शुरुआत किसी और चीज से करता है, उसका बीच में
हाँ.
क्वेश्चन कुछ और होता है और कंक्लूजन में आंसर वो कुछ और मांगता है और सब्जेक्ट कुछ चौथा ही होता है सर, तो समझ ही नहीं आता एग्जैक्टली करना क्या है उसके अंदर. आई हैव अ पर्टिकुलर केस जहाँ पे उन्होंने 3B वर्सेस 2A का वो निकाल रखा है कि 2B में आपका आईटीसी ज्यादा है और आपने कम क्लेम कर रखा है, तो बाकी क्लेम करके सरकार को रेवेन्यू मिले, ऐसा कीजिए. लेकिन बाद में वो रूल 42 43 में घुस गया बीच के अंदर और बाद में एंड में आके प्लीज गिव रिप्लाई. तो अभी हम सारे पॉइंट्स उठा के रिप्लाई कर रहे हैं सर कि भाई कुछ छूट नहीं जाए. सर आई हैव वन मोर क्वेरी. अगर सर कहीं पे सेक्शन 67 का पूरा INS 01 का
Gauravji, थोड़ा इंग्लिश में शेयर करना पड़ेगा because you have a lot of
sorry
participants.
sir, if a particular inquiry in case of a dealer under INS 01 has been concluded and now a separate division, like earlier the INS was done by the unit office and now the circle is undertaking the entire audit all over again for the same period. So do we have a respect? We have already submitted the final order, but they're still undergoing the walkthrough and everything all together again.
Yeah, this only we discussed, Gauravji, when Renuka ma'am had raised this issue, that this is something which has yet to be decided, that whenever we submit the information before the Intellivision team, and they only choose to proceed ahead in one of the things and leave out rest 9 of the things. So whether they have formed the opinion rest of the 9 of the things and allowed the taxpayer his contention, or they have not seen those 9 things and they have only moved ahead in one of the things, this is something which has to be.
That is something, sir, which is 10 points are raised and 9 they have not raised anything. But here the 10 things were raised by another team, and say for example the unit team, and now the enforcement team or the circle team is basically asking for data all over again in a different section 65 ke andar.
So this is something.
I have also a case in Telangana, sir, where an ASMT 10 was given for financial year 21-22. Reply was given, ASMT 12 was issued. Now they have again given a DRC 1, and the enforcement team is also doing an ADT 1 for the same period. And now two people are competing. Okay, DRC 1, who will settle first or who will give the ADT 1 first? So like there's a competition internally going between two division of SGST team only.
You have competition in terms of DRC 01. Herein, there was competition between CGST and SGST. First CGST went, then SGST issued the notice, SGST concluded and raised the demand. And CGST, even after the knowledge and the document being submitted, they also have issued the notice and they have also raised the demand.
I have been lucky in this such a case that where CGST had reached first, we basically gave the document of CGST and the SGST withdrew their inquiry. They said that we'll tag it with the SGST, typically in Gujarat. So itna logic is there in Gujarat at least. But yeah, in Telangana, MP, as Arup sir said, it's going haywire. Typically Rajasthan and West Bengal also, sir.
Yes, there are issues.
And one more thing also happens here. Sorry to interrupt, Arpit sir. Whether it is legal, I just wanted to know the legality of the case. See, supposing you get a ASMT 10 with 10 queries. All the 10 queries, you give a proper reply, right? Then again, they don't give an ASM. In ASMT 11, we give a proper reply. Then they do not accept the reply. They don't give the reasons as to why they do not want to accept. They issue one DRC 1A. Then we do the same reply because our reply is final. We do not have any corrections. And that DRC 1A also, again, is not considered. The reply given to DRC 1A is also not considered. And the final show cause notice is issued without giving reasons as to why the replies are not being accepted. What are the provisions the department is taking against which the replies are not to be accepted? They keep giving the notice again and again for the same issue without giving an answer. Is that legally valid is one question that always pops up in my mind whenever I draft a reply. Shouldn't the department give an answer? Shouldn't the department give an answer as to, see, supposing I say I have not paid RCM or this particular entity for this particular reason. The department never gives a counter for that. It says, I won't accept your reply. That's it. Is it permitted?
To take the situation of Renuka Madam further, in my case, sir, an ADT 1 happened for which they gave a DRC 1A. Reply was given. In basically audit point also, the reply was given. They didn't accept it. Then they gave a DRC-1A, same reply was given, they didn't accept. They issued a DRC-1, same reply was given, they didn't accept. Then they gave me a DRC-1, DRC-7. I filed an appeal, and ultimately appeal was remanded back to the person, and then it was dropped. So I gave a particular reply 7 times. And ultimately, the 7th time, when it was remanded back, it happened. This typically happened in Tamil Nadu. CGST.
Ma'am, what I see that if we go through ASMT 10, DRC-1A and DRC-01, which proceeding would be prejudicially impacting the assessee? It would be only when the demand has been created. Prior to that, no prejudicial action against the assessee is intended either in the statute or in the relevant section. If you go through section 61, what it says is there is a discrepancy. The section says that rather than jumping onto the conclusion for the officer, you seek information from the assessee, and if the information is correct, then you drop it. But if you find that your contention was correct and the information which has been provided by the assessee is not correct, then you go ahead and issue the show cause notice. But again, whenever a show cause notice is being issued, the demand is not being confirmed. So if you go through the principle of natural justice, it says that whenever a adverse action is intended against the assessee, he should be given an opportunity of hearing. So adverse action is what? The adverse action is creation of a demand. That is only after DRC-01, and that's why ASMT 10 and DRC-1A, they do not provide for an opportunity of being heard to be given before moving ahead in and passing the order moving ahead and issuing DRC-01. So in my opinion, for ASMT 10 and DRC-1A, this is something like a practice match. And it's for us to decide that whether or not we want to reply it or not, or whether or not we want to avail the opportunity or not. Because ultimately, everything would be concluded in DRC-01 by issuing of the show cause notice and then giving the opportunity of being heard. So if we have filed a reply, department has not issued given us the opportunity of being heard, or they have not told that why our reply is not considered, they are not duty bound to tell us that why your reply is not considered, because no order is being passed. Ultimately, a notice would be issued, which would be finalizing the matters, and then you have to reply, and the opportunity being heard would be given, and then the order would be issued. So it is only up to us that how and when we have to reply. And in my opinion, we have to strategize how we have to reply. Because whenever we are submitting all the facts in ASMT 10 and DRC-1A, and we know that the department is not going to accept our reply, so in my opinion, we should hold back the merits of the case, because in that case, we should also hold back on the incorrect facts which have been mentioned in DRC-1A or ASMT 10, because then we would be telling the correct facts, the merits on which we would be coming before them in DRC-01, and making them prepare for the ultimate finale in DRC-01. So this is how we have to see ASMT 10 and DRC-1A, because they are basically practice matches in my opinion, because we know that in most of the cases department would not be accepting a reply, and in cases where we are able to see that department would be accepting a reply, then we should go ahead and file all the relevant evidences and facts and the merits.
Unniji is exactly reflecting that in his chat, exactly telling the same thing that you have been telling. And I do agree with Unniji telling the last, but it is very difficult to convince the SSC. It's very tough.
Unniji does not, he is so expert in writing that he does not want an opportunity of being heard. So he only communicates with the chat box only.
So typically in the state of Gujarat, when they issue an ASMT 10, the officer tells us upfront, okay, you give an answer, I'll still give you a DRC-1A. You give an answer, I'll still give you DRC-1, and ultimately I'll give you DRC-1 if you wish not to pay. So they tell us in advance, 1A will happen, 1 will happen, and 7 will happen, because we have pressure from the top. We know that you are right, but we can't help you. So how to deal with such things?
Just skip ASMT 10 and DRC-1A, give a reply in DRC-01. There are a number of cases that department cannot issue an order merely by issuing DRC-1A. They have to issue DRC-01.
Okay.
Unniji is saying that he is in hospital. I hope that everything is well, and he would be soon joining us.
True, sir. So it
So-
was really a very, very eye-opening session, and I should really thank for giving me section 5 and 6 specifically, because it's a lot of reading in the past 4 or 5 days to understand the interplay between these sections and how to understand the 6-2B cases with the subject matter overlapping in each other, and really it helps us in our practice, and we try to understand how these replies are to be given in such cases. And as you said, as Praveen sir raised the right question of section 5 versus section 107, maybe we may expect some notifications in the future at some point of time when both these sections are contradictory in nature.
So, ma'am, the vote of was to be from our side to you. You have given the vote of thanks.
Rather, I think the vote of thanks should be from my side to all of you today, because that is how the entire discussion went. So, it can be reversed today, sir. On behalf of my own self, I thank the entire team and mainly the admin team for giving me an opportunity and taking this up as a very interesting discussion session for today. Thank you.
But
Arupji.
still, I think RPG has to offer a formal vote of thanks because of the efforts, large amount of effort that you put for the last 6 days. RPG, what do you?
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your thoughts on section 5 and section 6. See, these are sections on which the matter would be settled going forward in the future, somewhere 10 to 15 years down the line. So what we can do at present is to share the views and the opinions and the various situations which we are facing and come to a conclusion on the basis of experience of all the members who have participated in this discussion. But the baton was taken up by you, and you have very validly taken up section 5 and section 6 and the intricacies and the circulars which have been issued. And one interesting thing which you have raised, that everyone is competent to exercise the power, only the power has been restricted through the issuance of the setting of the monetary limit. And when you said that the principal commissioner has been given 2 power, that means that all the power which is delegated to the persons below him, all that power also rests in him, that he can also exercise that power. So it was a great session and sharing of thoughts from you. And Sujata ji had raised a very valid observation yesterday evening, that all the Nari Shakti, the female power, is taking ahead in the discussion, be it Sujata ji or Annapurna ji, nor Renuka ji, Soumya ji, who have taken this session. So we have all been benefited by this participation, and thank you very much for an enlightening session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you, RPG. Thank you. And thanks to all the participants for joining in. And today also we are lucky that we could again enrich our knowledge, which I'm sure we are enriching every Saturday, during 9 to 10:30. So please do keep joining because your joining makes makes the meeting more interesting. As today we had sharings by Gaurav ji, then Praveen ji, Soumya ma'am, so from so many members. So I think that Chetan ji also. So it's a wonderful way of interacting. So as we have taken the pledge to close the meeting on time, so today we are well ahead of time. So 10:24, we are closing the meeting. So thank you very much, and looking forward to see all of you on next Saturday. One small announcement that I wanted to make: we are getting messages for the YouTube link. I would just like to share with everybody that our YouTube channel's name is GST Faculty Group. So if you go to YouTube and just put in GST Faculty Group, you'll get all the meetings that have happened till now, which have been uploaded on YouTube. And we are trying to do it gradually. So maybe it takes about 6 to 7 days time lag, but all the meetings are uploaded on YouTube. So thank you very much. And thank you, Renuka ma'am, once again. Thanks to Arpinji, Unniji, and Venuji for the, for a wonderful support altogether. Thank you very much.
Arupji, request for a speaker for next session.
Also, we'll get in the group. Yeah, whoever wants to, carry out the next session, please do put in a message, or you can share here also, or you can put in a message also.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.